After the success of the signal box, I've now bought the Metcalfe Wayside station. Just to clarify, there's a couple of points that I was interested in before I bought it, which might help you. This kit comes with the entire building here, also the steps, which you can see here, and does include the short wall section here, although how long it is I don't know. It doesn't include the platform, so I've also bought the platform to build later. Look at the contents. We've got this laser cut section of canopy edging and brackets. It's really nicely weathered. Detailed instructions in 2 sheets. I found the previous set to be really good for the signal box. We've got some posters to go on as well, both GWR ones and later British Railways ones. And then here's all the different sections. It's already been cut out and it's just held in place by single little individual bits where it's not cut, so they're really easy to remove. And that's the little bench extra bit. That's more laser cut, whereas these are general cut. That's the extra sections of card, glazing, ridge tiles. It comes with all their sets, wall sections and other bits. What I'll do now is start putting it together and show you after the first section stage. I've now started on the kit and I'm part way through, so I'm just going to go over some general things. The instructions that you'll find with this kit and all the other Metcalfe kits are really good. Not too detailed, enough information to let you know what's going on, with nice clear diagrams, show you how to put everything together. Also little details that you might miss that are really helpful, such as with the bay windows in this particular kit, which way up to put the bay windows to make sure it's accurate and correct. So good diagrams, good instructions, and I would urge anybody who's putting together one of these kits to follow that to the letter. Personally, what I like to do is use this cutting board as my base, and then around it I've got all the equipment I need, the knives, the glue, the other bits and pieces. I leave the parts in the panels until I actually need them. One tip I found that obviously the cut lines are marked with blue arrows, which is quite obvious on here, and you'll find that if you put your blade edge into that blue arrow, it sits in the slot quite nicely, and then you can simply score across to cut across. For this kit and the other ones I've done, for my glue I'm using straightforward PVA glue, mainly because it's what I had already, and I'll come on to show you how I apply that. Just to talk about the kit in detail, what I really like about these models is that there's an inherent depth within it, a sort of three-dimensional quality. For example, this door, rather than just being a flush door on the surface of the building, there's 3 individual layers that you build up to give it that depth quality. You can see there how the individual panels come together to give it that depth, to make sure the door is actually inset like a real door would be. And the same is true of the other elements like the bay windows. You've got the outer surface, and then you've got this inner structure, and then the glazing on the inside of that, and it gives it a wonderful depth to it. So page 1, we've cut out the glazing and attached that to the panels. Show you one of those here. This is the front side. This is going to go inside the building. For the glue, you don't need a lot of glue, I would say from the outset. Just a tiny spot of glue, because when you push surfaces together the glue spreads out. Make sure you don't put the glue too close to the edge of the glazing, otherwise it will spread onto the surface and you'll ruin the glass effect. I found with PVA glue that because you've got a non-porous surface on one side, it takes longer to set, so I left these overnight to set. But I have found when gluing card together that because the card is so dry and porous, it sucks the moisture out of the glue straight away and it's set within minutes. So for the glazing you have to leave it for some time, but I found with the card parts that if I put them to one side for 5-10 minutes, I'll go and have a cup of tea and come back, then everything's dry and set, so it is quite quick progress. So I'm at the stage now of the upper part of page 2. The building has come together. It does highlight in there that the building actually, the walls wrap around the floor part and don't go on it, and these tabs here make sure that you actually do that properly. It all seems to be coming together rather well. One modification I have made at this stage is I've cut a hole in the bottom of the building, because I realised that once all the bay windows and the glazing's on and the roof's on, there'll be no way to get to the inside, and at some point in the future I'd like to put lighting into this. So my plan is to have, for example, the platform with some sort of support structure sticking out with a light on top, and then the building will simply sit on top of that, and once all the glazing and the roof's on, you'll just get a light from inside the building lighting up all the windows. And if I need to get to the light again to change it or modify it, I can simply remove it and work on the light. For the application of glue, I'm using a simple cocktail stick. The good thing about that is it's cheap and you can get loads very easily. So what I do is take my PVA glue and I just put a blob of that onto the one of the offcuts of card. This particular bit is a window recess that's come out, so it's a bit of waste card. Just put a small amount of glue on there. Because it's out in the open, you'll find that it'll dry up quite readily, so you don't want to put a huge amount and have it go thick and hard. And what I found is that by dipping in the cocktail stick in the glue, you can gather up glue, and then with a rolling action I can apply a really fine bead of glue onto the card. You can see there, just by moving it along and twisting the stick, you can produce some really thin layers of glue. And as I said before, when you squash the card or the card and plastic together, that will spread out quite well, so you don't need a huge amount at all. Keeping all the bits of card that I don't use, especially these areas that are already cut out, because they're going to be really useful I think later on. It's a nice neat rectangle of card with good cut edges, and that'll be useful if I need, say, a slab of concrete on the layout at some point in the future. I can just put that down and glue it in place and then paint it. So always keep all the bits. This kit comes with the laser cut platform seat, the GWR seat, in its own little bag. Nice detailed instructions, including this jig you can make up to allow the seat to come together in the correct orientation with everything at the right angle. It's made up with it sitting in like that, so that all the brackets are upright when the pieces will be the wood go on top. And here it is, the finished platform seat. I'm really impressed with this. The laser cutting is so accurate and precise, it's fantastic. The little GWR roundels that fit inside the green frame, they're so accurately cut that even though they're really tiny, they're a perfect fit. You've got what would be the screws holding the pieces of wood down onto the frame. Those are in the detailing, and the edges are so perfectly well cut that is a beautiful little item, and I'm definitely going to be buying some more of those to go on my station. Now at section 13, which is on instruction sheet 2, putting the buildings together. I'll just show you how far we're getting on. This is building A, more or less complete to go into the other buildings. I've noticed that as I go along, the structures are getting more and more rigid. There's good strength there, especially where these thicker sections are built up and these strengthening beams go across. So that is building A. Building B is very similar. It's also been modified with a hole in the bottom for light to come up, and this wall, internal wall, we've cut a rectangle in there to allow light to go through. I also did actually mark the back of the doors with the lettering that was on the lower of the 3 card sheets, because that became covered up by gluing. However, it turns out the doors are actually all identical, so there's not a real great deal of point in them being individually named. So that's building B, and that's going to go onto there. The last one is building C, again another hole in the floor for a light. This end's the toilet, and that end will go on there. The next section of the instructions is putting the canopy supports on, which is the laser cut elements, and the roof on. So we're moving on to that shortly. Now at stage 19, the capping stones are going to go on to the gables and other areas. Buildings have been put together. You can see here the ornate brackets on the roof sections. Now it's all stuck together, it's very solid and rigid, coming together really nicely. Everything's going together well. I've also jumped ahead and done the steps at the rear. This card section here for reinforcement, I've added an extra section in the middle, the same method they use on platforms, just to keep that in place, and prepared all the awnings ready. So everything's now completed. You can see here the finished model. There's some bits left over. There's just the walls and the capping to go on the platform, and that's done. And some posters, but I haven't decided which ones I'm going to use yet. This is the platform side of the station. I especially like the canopy edging, which is typical of country stations and small stations. I also like the red ridge tiles and the coping stones. I like the way they neatly cover all the joins up, and especially the nice little detail is the little chimney pots. And this is the street side, where the ramp goes at the rear, at the back of the platform. My overall impression of this is a very detailed kit model, real good fun to build. You could go out and buy for similar money a plastic completed station, but it wouldn't be as detailed, I don't think. And the fun is not in the buying, the fun is in the building. And it contains very clear instructions, really simple and easy to build. I've got almost no experience of card kit building, and I found it relatively easy and simple. The laser cut components are really nice, and it's going to make a nice addition to the layout.